Under the cold glow of a distant star, the alien armada emerged from faster-than-light travel like a dark tide spilling into the void. Hundreds of massive ships filled the black canvas of space, each bristling with weapons that had ended civilizations. They were the Krail Dominion, conquerors of over 100 worlds, and they had come to claim yet another system. Their approach was methodical, confident, even arrogant. It had been centuries since any opponent had posed a true threat to them. This was routine. They expected fear, retreat, surrender. They expected to crush whatever stood in their way. And yet, as their scanners swept the system, something strange happened. They detected only a single human warship, one ship holding position in high orbit above the human colony world of Vespera Prime. The Krail ships exchanged coded signals, some almost mocking in tone. This would be a short campaign, hardly worth the resources they'd invested. One captain sent a broadcast, in the humans' own language, promising mercy if they surrendered now. No answer came. The alien fleet slowed to attack formation, their colossal capital ships forming the forward spearhead. The human vessel still did not move. It was an old habit of the Krail to study their prey before crushing it, to savor the moment of superiority. Their flagship's advanced sensors painted a clear picture of the lone opponent. Hull classification, human design, medium tonnage, power output, average. Weapon systems, standard kinetic railguns, and missile batteries, nothing unusual. They calculated a 99.87% probability of swift victory in under 8 minutes. From their point of view, this lone ship had only two logical choices: retreat into deep space or be vaporized. But the human warship, designated HSS Valiant, did neither. Instead, it rotated slowly to face them, its forward battery lining up with the exact center of the Krail formation. The aliens found this amusing. To them, this was not bravery, it was desperation. In desperation, they believed always ended the same way. On the bridge of the Valiant, the atmosphere was nothing like the chaos of the alien flagship. Captain Elias Arlen stood at the center, one hand resting on the back of the helm chair, his expression unreadable. The crew moved with quiet precision, no raised voices, no wasted movements. The air was tense, but not frantic. It was the kind of silence that came from absolute focus. Behind the captain, the tactical officer monitored the enemy fleets. Advance. Hundreds of contacts. Thousands of lives. They're in range, she said softly. Captain Arlen didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the holographic display at the front of the bridge, where red markers indicated enemy warships closing in like a tightening net. Finally, in a calm, steady voice, he said, "Activate the lance." A low hum began to build. Through the ship's frame, a vibration that grew deeper, heavier, until it was felt more than heard. Outside, space itself seemed to shimmer faintly ahead of the Valiant, as if invisible hands were bending reality in preparation for something unnatural. The aliens saw it too, but their tactical AI dismissed it as sensor interference. Nothing in the known galaxy could alter space like that, at least nothing they had ever encountered. Confident in their superiority, the Krail commander ordered the first volley. Dozens of beams and plasma bursts lit up the void, converging on the human warship. But before the shots could land, a blinding pulse of energy erupted from the Valiant. It wasn't a projectile, it wasn't a beam. It was something else entirely, an almost perfect sphere of white-blue. Distortion that leapt forward faster than light. The lead alien battleship didn't explode. It didn't break apart. It simply vanished. One moment it was there, a mountain of armored metal and firepower, and the next, it was gone, erased so completely that not even dust remained. The alien fleet's comm channels erupted in confusion. Some believed the ship had been teleported. Others thought it was cloaked. But their sensors told the truth. The ship was not hidden, it no longer existed. In the alien commander's mind, a thought formed that he had not felt in centuries. Fear. On the Valiant, no one celebrated. Captain Arlen simply gave the next order. Target the second wave. The hum of the ship deepened again. The shimmer ahead grew brighter, sharper. Another pulse tore across the gap, and a second warship disappeared into nothingness. No wreckage. In the space of a heartbeat, two of the Krall's most powerful ships were erased as though they had never been built. The alien formation wavered. These were not losses they could explain. This was not a weapon they understood. The commander barked orders to spread out, to overwhelm the enemy before more could vanish. But deep down, he knew something was very wrong. The Krall Dominion had faced powerful weapons before. They had seen plasma lances, singularity bombs, neutron storms, but those left scars, debris, radiation. This human weapon left nothing. It didn't destroy, it erased. And there was no defense against it. In the back rows of the alien fleet, ships began to drift out of formation, their captains unwilling to be the next target. The commander shouted threats and promises of execution, but discipline was breaking. A predator species was beginning to taste its own extinction. The Valiant moved forward now, slow and deliberate, like a lion stepping into a herd of startled prey. Its weapons didn't fire in salvos or bursts. They fired one at a time, each shot deliberate, each erasure precise. And with every flash, another Krall warship was gone forever. The alien commander realized the danger too late. This wasn't just an engagement. This was an execution. He tried to order a full retreat, but his navigation officer reported something. Impossible. Their escape vectors were gone. Tire routes were blocked by invisible distortions. Cloaked human drones and seen until now had already deployed throughout the battle space, cutting off every hyperspace jump point. They were trapped. The Valiant's crew worked without pause. The targeting officer's voice was calm as she called. Out each lock. Target acquired. Firing. Another pulse. Another erasure. Alien cum chatter descended into panic. Some ships began firing wildly into empty space. Others tried to rush the Valiant, hoping to ram it before it could fire again. The first of these attackers reached within weapons range and disappeared before their weapons even warmed up. On the alien flagship, the commander's second-in-command whispered the truth neither wanted to speak aloud. This is no warship. This is a hunter. Commander clenched his jaws, his species equivalent of dread washing over him. The battle had lasted less than 3 minutes. It lost more ships in that time than in any campaign in the last century. And the human vessel wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating. The Valiant was now deep within the alien formation, strange weapon cutting a path like a scalpel through flesh. Each disappearance left a gap that broke formations and caused collisions, making the enemy's fire even less effective. The hum in the Valiant's hull was now a steady, ominous thrum, like the heartbeat of something vast and unstoppable. Captain. Arlen's eyes never left the tactical display. He had no anger, no visible satisfaction, only purpose. The alien commander knew there was only one chance left. He would have to bring his flagship directly into collision course with the human vessel, sacrificing everything in a desperate attempt to end this nightmare. He gave the order, and the massive flagship roared forward, engines flaring, weapons firing at full power. It was a move born not of strategy, but of terror. On the Valiant, sensors tracked the flagship's approach. The crew braced. And then, with the same calm tone he'd used since the battle began, Captain Arlen said, "Bring the Lance to maximum output." Outside, space began to warp in ways no living eye had ever seen, light bending and twisting as if reality itself were preparing to break, and then the Valiant fired. The alien flagship was gone, not destroyed, not crippled, gone. One instant it was hurtling toward the human warship with all the desperation of a cornered predator. The next it had been erased from existence like a painting scrubbed from a wall. In the sudden void it left behind, fragments of smaller escort ships drifted, their formations shattered by the shockwave of its disappearance. Silence filled the alien cum channels, a silence far more terrifying than the chaos that had come before. This was the silence of realization, the moment when warriors understood they were no longer fighting for victory, but for survival. On the bridge of the Valiant, the same quiet discipline held. Captain Elias Arlen stood motionless at the center, the faint blue glow from the Lance's targeting display washing over his features. The crew did not cheer. No one spoke unnecessarily. They had been trained for this moment, and they knew the weapon they carried was not one to celebrate, it was one to wield with absolute precision. "Secondary wave, 3 degrees to port," the tactical officer announced. Alalala nodded once. The hum in the ship's hull began again, low and deep, like the rumble of a distant storm. The shimmer ahead sharpened into a distortion so pure that space itself seemed to fracture. The aliens, now leaderless, scrambled to coordinate. A new command chain emerged, smaller warships trying to rally their companions, urging them to form a perimeter and fire all weapons simultaneously at the Valiant. But the human ship didn't dodge. It didn't evade. It simply advanced through the storm of incoming fire, its shields flaring with each impact but never faltering. The lance pulsed again, and a heavy cruiser vanished. Another pulse, and an escort ship disappeared mid-turn, leaving its partner to slam into empty space where it had been seconds before. Fear turned to panic. Entire groups of alien ships broke formation, fleeing in any direction that seemed clear. Some tried to hide behind debris. Others plunged toward the surface of the planet below, hoping its gravity well might shield them from whatever weapon the humans were using. It was useless. The lance didn't care about distance, mass, or cover. When it fired, its targets simply ceased to exist. The alien fleet's data archives records compiled over centuries of conquest had no match for this weapon. They had seen planetary annihilation, antimatter detonations, even black hole generators. But those had limits. This was something else. It was as if the humans had found a way to reach into the code of reality itself and delete what they chose. No shield could block it. No armor could resist it. No countermeasure could disrupt it. The weapon was absolute, and yet Captain Arlen seemed almost reluctant to use it at full capacity. He fired in measured intervals, each shot deliberate, each disappearance calculated to fracture the enemy's will rather than simply annihilate them all at once. It was psychological as much as physical warfare, showing the aliens that no matter how they moved, no matter what they tried, the Valiant could end them in an instant. Some alien officers tried to rally resistance by broadcasting threats, offers, even pleas in the humans' language. The cum officer on the Valiant received them all, but Arlen gave no order to respond. He didn't need to speak. The message was already clear in the void where hundreds of alien ships had once been. Meanwhile, deep inside the Valiant engineers monitored the Lance's chorosphere of unknown alloy surrounded by magnetic containment fields and quantum stabilizers. It wasn't human technology alone, at least not entirely. Parts of it hummed in frequencies no human ear could hear, vibrating with an energy source that Earth's brightest minds still didn't fully understand. Rumor among the crew was that the weapon had been built from something found drifting on the edge of known. A relic from a civilization so advanced that the Krail themselves might have feared it. Whether that was true, only a handful of people alive knew in the alien ranks. The surviving ships were down to less than a third of their original number. Communications were fragmented. Coordination was collapsing. The fleet had come here expecting an easy conquest, a swift show of force that would bring another world under Krail rule. Instead, they had walked into an execution ground. The Valiant slowed its advance, as if to give the aliens one last chance to retreat, but retreat was no longer possible. The same cloaked drones that had sealed off their hyperspace escape routes still hung in the darkness, silent sentinels ensuring no one could leave without the captain's permission. The aliens had nowhere to run, and then, for the first time since the battle began, Captain Arlen spoke into the cum system not to the aliens, but to his own crew. "Initiate pattern Omega," he said. The bridge crew moved instantly, recalibrating the Lance's targeting systems for simultaneous multi-point strikes. The shimmer ahead of the Valiant intensified, splitting into dozens of smaller distortions, each locked onto a different target. The aliens recognized the danger, but by then it was too late. The pulses came faster now. 1, 2, 5, 10 entire clusters of ships gone in the blink of an eye. In under 30 seconds, the fleet was reduced to scattered remnants, no longer a threat, but too terrified to surrender. The Valiant held its position among the wreckage, its hull glowing faintly from the residual energy of the lance. In the quiet that followed, the humans did not cheer. They did not broadcast their victory. They simply stood in the silence, letting the surviving aliens sit with the truth. They had not been defeated in battle. They had been spared, and that, the captain knew, was far more dangerous than total destruction. Word of the massacre did not travel, it exploded. The Krail Homeworld's command network lit up with emergency signals from the fleet's remaining vessels, their transmissions frantic and broken. High Command analysts replayed the last coherent sensor feeds over and over, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Ships vanishing without debris, without detonation, without any known physical cause. It was impossible. The laws of physics did not allow for this. And yet the humans had done it in minutes. In council chambers across alien space, leaders whispered the same questions. How could a young species, barely a century into faster-than-light travel, possess such a weapon? Where had they gotten it? And most disturbing of all, if the humans had such power, why had they only used it here? Why not sweep through the galaxy and crush all rivals? That restraint was more terrifying than the weapon itself. It meant the humans were choosing their battles with purpose. Civilian populations on border worlds panicked. Krail-controlled colonies near human space erupted into riots, their citizens demanding evacuation before the humans deleted their planets. Refugee fleets began to form, but hyperspace corridors grew crowded and dangerous. Merchants, smugglers, mercenaries all saw opportunity in the chaos, selling false promises of safe passage and spreading rumors that the humans could strike anywhere without warning. The Valiant's victory became a ghost story, told in dimly lit bars and warship mess halls. Some said the humans had forged an alliance with ancient star gods. Others swore they had mastered dark energy, the mythical death light that could collapse matter into nothingness. But those who had faced the Valiant and lived told it more simply. They said the human ship had looked them in the eye, and then their fleet was gone. In the Krail High Command's war room, admirals debated whether to launch an immediate retaliation or to withdraw entirely from human territory. One faction demanded overwhelming force, send 3 armadas at once, saturate human defenses, and obliterate any planet capable of producing a ship like the Valiant. Another faction argued for caution, warning that if the humans could replicate the Lance, even a triple fleet would be slaughtered in the same way. No one could prove the humans had more than one, but no one dared to bet the Empire's survival on it. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Valiant returned to a reception that was nothing like the victory parades of history. There were no fireworks, no triumphal speeches. The ship docked at a classified orbital facility, and the crew was quietly rotated into debriefing. Most civilians never learned the scale of what had happened. The Earth Council's official statement described it as a successful defense against a hostile incursion. The words were deliberately plain, masking the reality that the Krail Armada had been the most powerful fleet ever assembled against humanity, and it had been erased. Only in the highest circles was the full truth discussed, and even their questions outweighed answers. Captain Arlen's after-action report was clinical and precise, but it offered no hint of where the Lance had come from. When pressed, he would only say it was operational under special authority and that its existence was to remain classified at all costs. Not everyone on the Valiant agreed with the secrecy. Among the crew, a few whispered doubts in the privacy of locked quarters. Was it right to hide such a weapon from the public? What if the Krail regrouped and struck again? Would Earth's citizens be prepared, or would they be blindsided by? War they didn't know had already started, but discipline held. Orders were followed. The Lance stayed in the shadows. In alien space, fear turned to something more dangerous: calculation. The Krail weren't the only empire watching. Smaller powers began quietly probing human defenses, sending disguised reconnaissance ships to ward border systems. A few never returned. Others came back with sensor logs filled with inexplicable anomalies, distortions in space, brief surges of impossible energy, ghost signatures of something massive moving just beyond detection. The humans weren't just defending. They were moving pieces on the board that no one else could see. And in the deepest, most secret vaults of Krail intelligence, a chilling possibility was being discussed in absolute secrecy. What if the Lance wasn't human-made at all? Across half the galaxy, the hunt began. The Krail High Command, stung by the loss of their Pride fleet, authorized the largest covert operation in their history. It was not an invasion. They dared not risk another open battle, but a search for the truth about the human. Warship known as the Valiant, and most importantly, the weapon they called the Lance. Dozens of disguised vessels slipped into human-controlled systems. Under false identities, merchant haulers, refugee craft, even automated mineral surveyors. They carried stealth drones, cloaked scanners, and infiltration teams trained to disappear into alien societies. The mission orders were explicit: locate the Lance, learn its capabilities, and if possible, acquire it. No price was too high. But human space was not what the Krail expected. On the surface, it seemed disorganized, fragmented governments. Different military branches, private corporations running deep space stations. Yet every time a Krail operative made progress, something happened. A customs inspection would randomly target their ship. A local trader would suddenly become uncooperative. A strange blackout in communications would occur just as critical data was about to be transmitted. The Krail began to suspect there was no chaos here at all, only the appearance of it. One was pulling invisible strings. One operative commander. Vresh came closer than any other. He infiltrated a repair dock orbiting Titan, posing as an engineer. Over months, he worked his way into classified maintenance schedules. Then, one night, he saw a tan, unmarked hangar, heavily guarded, into which an enormous shadow was towed. The Valiant? It was not battle-scarred. Its hull was pristine, but in certain lights, Vresh could see faint scorch marks, as if space itself had burned against it. He saw something stranger: rows of embedded emitters along the ship's spine. Their design unlike any known technology, not even the most advanced Krail prototypes. He recorded everything he could before the alarm klaxon screamed. Vresh never made it off Titan. His transmission was cut mid-burst. His ship was found drifting in Saturn's rings, stripped of all crew. The Krail weren't the only hunters. The Jari Syndicate, a neutral but opportunistic species, deployed their own agents to find the Lance. To them, it wasn't about war, it was about profit. Whoever owned a weapon that could erase an armada could dictate the future of the galaxy. They targeted human officers with bribes, illegal luxuries, and promises of asylum. Most offers were refused outright. Few officers vanished, presumed kidnapped. None returned alive. Meanwhile, rumors spread in the underworld that the Lance was not a human invention at all. Some claimed it was a relic from the Dawn Wars, created by a civilization so advanced it burned itself out of existence. Others whispered that the humans had found it drifting in deep space and had somehow bent it to their will. Still others suggested the humans didn't fully understand it themselves, that they were merely custodians of something ancient and alien. Earth's leaders said nothing publicly, but in the shadows the hunt was mutual. Human Intelligence Division Black Cell began dismantling foreign spy networks with ruthless efficiency. Infiltrators vanished from their safe houses. Data cores meant to hold stolen schematics were found wiped to molecular level. And sometimes, entire ships that had been tailing human convoys were simply gone. No debris, no signal, no trace. It became clear to every hunter. The Lance was more than a weapon. It was bait. And the humans were using it to draw out anyone who wanted to test them. But far from both human and alien space, in a dark, forgotten corner of the galaxy, something else had taken notice. Long before humanity's first starship, it had waited. It had watched. And now, it had sensed the Lance's awakening. The signal reached it like a whisper through endless night. For eons, it had been still drifting in the cold space between galaxies, its vast hull dormant, its mind locked in a cycle of silent calculations. It was older than the Krail, older than humanity, older even than the myths that other ancient species still told in hushed tones. It did not think of itself as alive in the way organic beings did. It was purpose. It was vigilance. was the last warden of a forgotten war, and now it had been awoken. The moment the lance fired in that battle against the Krail Armada, its unique energy signature had spilled out like a flare across the void. The warden had recognized it instantly, an echo of a weapon it had once fought to destroy. To its vast alien awareness, there was no question. Whoever possessed this weapon had to be tested. If they were unworthy, they had to be erased. In the depths of its colossal structure, systems came online. Engines capable of folding the very fabric of space began to hum. Armored bays opened, revealing constructs that looked like ships but were, in truth, living weapons. Each one could dismantle an entire fleet on its own. As it began its journey toward human space, it listened. It intercepted Krail transmissions, fragments of fear, rage, and obsession. It monitored human military chatter, calculated, but laced with an unspoken readiness for war. The warden did not care for politics. He cared only for the question. Were these humans the same kind of reckless species that had ended the Dawn Wars? On the far edge of the Orion Spur, human deep space stations began picking up strange gravitational distortions. At first, they assumed it was a collapsed star, wandering too close to their territory. But then came the electromagnetic pulsa, rhythm too precise to be natural, too alien to be a language. The Valiant was pulled from its patrol and sent toward the anomaly. No escort, no public announcement. Only a sealed set of orders delivered directly to Captain Arlen Voss, the kind of orders that didn't exist in official records. Voss felt it before he saw it, the way the stars seemed wrong, slightly bent, as if space itself was being pulled toward something vast and invisible. Then out of the black, it emerged. It dwarfed the Valiant. It dwarfed anything. The human supercarrier, a symbol of unmatched military power, suddenly looked like a child's toy beside the dark titan that approached. Its hull was black and smooth, broken only by faint lines of blue light that pulsed in time with its strange, deep space heartbeat, and then it spoke not in words, but in a signal that bypassed every system and struck directly into human minds. You carry the weapon. You'll be measured. All across the Valiant, systems flickered. Weapons went offline. Shields died. Engines fell silent. The crew scrambled, but every attempt to counter the intrusion failed. The warden had them in its grasp. It was deciding what to do next. The lance was still there, locked deep within the Valiant's core. But for the first time, humanity's greatest weapon was utterly powerless, and the test had only just begun. The darkness around the Valiant felt alive. The warden's colossal shape blotted out stars, its faint blue lines pulsing with the steady rhythm of something ancient and unyielding. The crew could feel it, not just see it, like a cold pressure at the back of their minds. It wasn't here to destroy for sport, it was here to judge. Inside the command deck, Captain Arlen Voss kept his voice steady, though his heart pounded. All stations, hold your ground. We don't show fear. Fear, however, was everywhere. Weapons were offline, propulsion dead, comes limited to short-range bursts. The warden's signal had infiltrated every human system, but strangely, it had not yet struck. It was watching, waiting, Captain, said Commander Ilya-Chen, her eyes locked on the tactical display. The Lance Corps, it's waking up on its own. Deep within the Valiant, the Lance began to hum a resonance unlike any human technology. Panels lit up with unreadable glyphs, as though the weapon itself understood the challenge before them. Then, without warning, the warden moved. One of its smaller constructs detached from the main hull, a sleek, crescent-shaped predator that glided toward the Valiant. It released a pulse wave. The human warship shuddered as bulkheads groaned and lights flickered. It wasn't an attack to destroy it. It was a strike to see how they would respond. Voss gave the order. Manual overrides. Bypass the AI locks. Bring the Lance online. Engineers worked with frantic precision, rerouting power, cutting automated. Safeties forcing the ship's systems into old analog modes no alien code could touch. Slowly, the Valiant began to breathe, again, engines flickering back. Weapons charging, shields humming to life, the warden's construct circled closer. The crew could feel its gaze, like the weight of a predator deciding if its prey was worth the effort. Then the warden itself sent another mind signal. Clearer this time, show me why you should endure. The lance fired. It was not a beam, not a missile, but a rift, a tearing of space itself that lanced outward in perfect silence. It didn't strike. The construct struck the void beside it, collapsing a section of space into nothing. The resulting gravitational shockwave flung the alien drone aside like debris in a storm. The warden paused. The pulse lines along its hull changed rhythm. Then, in an act that stunned everyone on the Valiant, the giant began to withdraw its constructs. No final attack came, no retaliation. Instead, the mind voice returned one last time. You are dangerous. You may yet be worthy. But others will come. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the warden folded space and vanished, leaving only the trembling stars in its wake. The Valiant floated in silence. Her crew stunned. They had faced something older than history itself, and survived. But the victory was hollow. The message was clear. The lance had been noticed, and in the cold, endless dark, other watchers had already turned their eyes toward humanity.